want to talk a little bit about the quarterback situation, and let's take it out of the football gridiron and put it on a baseball diamond for a second. In baseball, baseball players oftentimes will try stuff and they're not afraid to fail. The big thing is, strike out 7 out of 10 times and you're still in the Hall of Fame. Navy went into the CIC game against Army last year with a freshman quarterback. And I'm wondering, there are not a lot of teams that would put their freshmen in a big game like that. But I'm kind of wondering if that wasn't a chance to really condition a young quarterback for the next 3 years. I mean, giving a freshman quarterback that kind of experience in a big game like that could have a huge impact on the next 3 years for Navy. I know they've been pretty closed about who the starting quarterback will be, but I'm kind of curious, was that an investment in the next 3 years?
I think last year for many teams in college football, especially if you're not in that upper crust of the Power Five, like Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, you basically had, for lack of a better term, glorified scrimmages going on last year. It was kind of like spring football with charged attendance where you could. A lot of teams weren't even able to have players in the stands. Obviously, the Army-Navy game was a little bit different, played in front of a small crowd with the brigade and the Corps both in attendance up at Army. And look, I mean, it's a great opportunity to see exactly what Xavier Arline would look like in that situation. And considering how last year's preparation went for this team, remember, he wasn't here, until into August. So it's not like other civilian programs where sometimes you get your kids a little bit earlier if they enroll in that spring semester. Approaching their freshman year. That's one of the trends that we have now in college football. Xavier's not even on campus taking contact until, well into the season, based on the way Navy did camp last year, where they didn't even hit, because as Kenny Amadalolo, talked about, his only job in August when camp was going on was just keeping guys healthy, because we still really didn't know what we were dealing with in terms of the pandemic and the COVID-19 situation. And you've got, kids pretty much in close proximity with each other there at the academy, because the academy's mission doesn't stop just because we have a pandemic. Sure, they put a lot of protocols in place to keep everybody safe, but educating midshipmen because they're not going to get that extra year as we're seeing all around college football. And this was the 1 year that Navy didn't really have an answer at that position. Dalen Morris played some good football for us at times, and Xavier got opportunities as the season went along. And let's face it, when you can run fast in a straight line like Xavier can, and you have some wiggle, that athleticism at that position, based on the way the quarterback usually is something they look forward to. And hey, what better way? I mean, you want to beat Army, but last season was, for lack of a better term, house money. I mean, no one's going to really criticize you for how you played football in the 2020 season, because we were dealing with a pandemic and somehow still playing college football. So great on-the-job training opportunity up at West Point. I thought Xavier handled himself as well as he possibly could under the bright lights of that game, and certainly sets himself up to be part of what I think legitimately right now is a 3-man competition for the quarterback spot coming up here in the fall of 2021 at the Naval Academy.
Yeah, well, the coaches have been a little guarded about saying anything about who's starting. Who do you see the competition for quarterback between?
Well, I think they're being guarded, but I also think they're being honest. I don't think there is a starting quarterback at this moment as we're speaking in June. I truly believe there will be legitimate competition for that job between Xavier Arline, Ty Levitai, and Masai Maynor. I believe those 3 young men have probably put themselves, certainly at least going into camp, in a position to compete for it. That's not to say anybody else on the quarterback depth chart can't jump up in there and show Coach Jasper, who coaches the quarterbacks and coordinates the offense, that they're ready to assume the responsibility of that position. But I also think at the same time, it's great that you have multiple bodies that they feel very confident about. I think they like what they're seeing from the 3 of them. It's not just a case of, well, we've got 4 or 5 guys on the depth chart, somebody's got to win the job. I don't believe that's the case with them. I think they really feel strongly about the skill sets that the 3 of them have. All 3 kind of diverse in the different things that they do at the position. And I think that's the thing that intrigues, Coach Niumatalolo and Coach Jasper as to what each guy could potentially bring to the offense. But it's also great to have competition. You don't want to have a situation where you're just defaulting to one guy. You want all three guys to know, A, they have a chance to win the job, because that makes them work that much harder knowing that they have a legitimate opportunity to potentially command this football team coming up here September the 4th against Marshall.
Gotcha. Let's talk a little bit about offense, because I remember Coach Niumatalolo coming off the field saying you just can't win a game without offense. There was some real stand-up effort from the defense last year, but I know he was really troubled by his offense. There was a press conference not too long ago where Bill Wagner asked a question about the optimism about the offensive line and stuff. And just, why is everybody so optimistic about it? What's your take on the outlook for offense this season?
I don't think there's any question that for Navy, it starts with the offensive line. Ashley Ingram and Danny O'Rourke do a terrific job getting that offensive line prepared. And they're really excited about a couple of the kids that are going to have opportunity here to get some playing time. Young men who have done the work right now in the weight room and, putting themselves in a position through spring practice to show the coaches, hey, we're ready to compete. And, Kenny is an offensive line guy, by nature. So he has a little extra gleam in his eye when he's looking at those offensive linemen. And neither Kenny nor Ashley Ingram or Danny O'Rourke, who we've all heard from here during spring football, none of those guys throw compliments around, like M&Ms to kids at Halloween. Mm-hmm. So when you hear them talking in a positive tone of voice about what they like about the young men that are competing at a lot of different spots along that offensive line. I mean, there's even guys that have had some playing time, legitimate playing time, started some games that right now you would say are not assured of a starting position because of the competition that's being displayed along that offensive line. And when you have 8 or 9 young men that are competing, for spots, 5 of them across that offensive line, and, that's a good problem to have, and a testament to the kids that despite all of the distractions that we've had over the last year and a half, that they've managed to keep their bodies in tremendous shape. They were ready to compete during spring football, because that's where you show the coaches that you're ready to compete for a spot in the fall. It's how hard are you going to work in the spring? And I think their optimism is because they've got a lot of competition on the offensive line. You've got some skilled people coming back at the running backs, at the A's and the B's, and certainly at wide receiver right now. You got a couple of kids that may be as good as we've had on the outside in terms of being able to make explosive plays on the outside. So I think that's why there's so much optimism. Last year, I think you just have to throw that video and what happened last year. You throw that in the circular file. And, if the only time you bring it up is if somebody, files a Freedom of Information Act to try and get some of it right now. It wasn't Navy football, but a lot of teams last year weren't their brand of football simply because of the way things were happening in our world at that time.
Well, do me a favor. You dropped a couple names when it came to offense. Who else are you watching on the offensive side? Who do you think are going to be the players to watch?
Well, there's no doubt Michael Cooper and Mark Walker on the outside. I think if they played in any of the other offenses in the American Athletic Conference, and we've got some explosive offenses in that league, and I think that in itself presents they would be first team receivers, I think, on a lot of different teams in the league because of the skill sets that they have. So I think whichever quarterback wins the job, they're going to have a chance to make some explosive plays in the air game because of what Michael and Mark bring to the table. I think we've got, right now, because you look at the depth that we've had at a couple of the different positions, I think there's going to be great competition with some guys that aren't even on the depth chart right now in the A back room and the B back room. So I think when you see names on the depth chart right now, those guys aren't home free, because I think there's going to be a lot of competition there. Some questions that have to be answered because guys are going to be playing more significant roles at those spots. But I think because of what Cooper and Walker bring on the outside, Those are guys that I think have the chance to really be special as this season develops. And as we often find out with Navy football, there are stars who emerge at the A-back and B-back position who we're not even thinking about right now because of the nature of competition at those spots. And I think that's a good problem to have, but also a testament to the position coaches who do a fantastic job getting those guys ready.
Gotcha. Hey, let's talk defense just for a second. Navy had its largest comeback win ever last year against Tulane. Several games where the defense delivered. Really impressed with what they did. Who are you watching on the defensive side of the ball?
Well, I don't think there's any question when you talk Navy defense, it starts with, a guy that I think has potential, NFL type ability in Diego Fagot. Diego's a tremendous player, all-conference linebacker, plays with amazing intensity, plays with tremendous heart, and plays for the name on his jersey because he knows it represents not only him but his teammates. This is a guy that is really selfless. He bleeds the Navy brand. I mean, those are the kind of leaders that you want on your football team, guys that set the tone every day, on the practice field, in the weight room, doing the job in the classroom and encouraging teammates to do the same. Those are the kind of leaders you want on your football team. And I think Diego clearly sets the standard. You've got great experience coming back in the secondary with a guy like Kevin Brennan, who's going to help keep that group, pretty steady. In the back, Mitchell West ended up getting a lot of playing time alongside him as safety because of some injuries last year. So I think that helps tremendously on the back end. Nicholas Straw, I think, is another guy that is, worth watching on the defensive side, a guy that really took advantage of some opportunities at linebacker that he played on the outside last year. And I think he's going to be a guy that, I think from defense is hard to measure from an analytical standpoint outside of, raw tackle numbers. We've got quarterback hurries, pressures, all that stuff now. But I think Straw's guy's got a chance to really step up and take another step forward in his development. We've got some young corners in the back that are ready to challenge multiple spots on the depth chart. So that's going to be great competition there as we try to replace some guys as well during this 2021 football season. Brian's done a tremendous job coordinating this group, and I think they have a chance to be pretty good again because in our league, man, if your defense can just get you 3 or 4 stops a game, that can usually be the difference because, one of these days the American Athletic Conference is really going to get, I think, acknowledgement as maybe that 6th power conference that they deserve. They're not afraid to schedule any of the powerhouses. It's just a matter of whether those powerhouses will schedule them. And our teams usually show up and show out when those opportunities are given. So there's no question defensively in our league, all these defenses are challenged because of the quality that this league presents overall through so many stops.
Well, that's a great segue into the matchups this year. What do you think are the key matchups for Navy in the schedule this year?
Well, I mean, look, let's face it. You're trying to establish yourself after what happened last year. If you're a football player, you're trying to establish yourself quickly and reestablish the brand. Marshall had a great year last year. New coach in Charles Huff was the running backs coach at Alabama, takes over there. And then you have Air Force in game 2. So you can't look ahead because Air Force is on the horizon because Marshall's good enough to take your lunch and blow you out on your field in the very first game. So I think it's 2 great tests to start the season for the Mids. Fortunately, after that, they get a week off to recoup from what is always an incredibly emotional and physical game with Air Force. And then the league play starts and, you go on the road to Houston. Dana's done a great job playing the transfer portal there. They've got a great quarterback in Clayton Tune coming back that you've got to get ready for there. Lost some key pieces on defense, but if you're going to play Houston, maybe early in the season is the best time to do that before they really get some continuity and get a lot of those spots filled up. But, this league, you go throughout the schedule. We play on a Thursday night at Memphis. We play on a Friday night at Tulsa, who had a terrific year last year and had their great linebacker, Zaven Collins, picked number 16 in the draft by the Arizona Cardinals. Coach Montgomery's done a real good job there. They got, a couple of quarterbacks battling for position, a young one that really showed some mettle last year in the tail end of a game against Tulane, who's always given the Mids fits. So you beat Willie Fritz's team you know that guy's got some ability and was able to pull that off. UCF comes to town on October the 2nd, and Gus Malzahn takes over at UCF. They've always been loaded there in terms of offensive talent. Now you add a guy that's been a great offensive mind. And, the beauty of the Navy schedule is joining the American Athletic Conference. This is why they did that, because they want to be a player every Saturday where people are saying, hey, look who Navy's playing. Usually in our league, almost every one of our games is on TV. Navy's got their great TV contract for their home games with CBS College Sports. You've got a high-profile game with Notre Dame, of course. That is always on the schedule. And that's why moving to this league has raised the profile for Navy considerably. Clearly, the Notre Dame game, always a big one. End of the season when you play Army on national TV in a standalone game on that second Saturday in December, brings all the eyes of college football fans to the table. So there are plenty of great games along the schedule. Cincinnati is going to be a top 10 team with Desmond Ridder coming back. They come into Annapolis on October the 23rd. So there's so many great games on the Navy schedule this coming season. If they earn the opportunity to go to a bowl game by winning, the requisite amount of games, challenge for the conference title, they will have earned it this year because there are some humdingers on their schedule throughout the campaign.
Right. Perfect, Pete. Thank you. I do want to ask you two kind of disjointed questions, but I'm kind of curious. I remember last year they were talking a lot about the struggle to get the ball outside and to take advantage of playing out there. It sounds like you see more of an opportunity for that this year. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think all three guys that are challenging for the job are more adept at running all facets of the offense. And that's the important thing. If you're going to run the triple option, you need to be able to be proficient in all opportunities of the offense. And that's not to slight Dalen Morris, who ended up starting a lot of the games last year. You're a senior and you're thrust into the spotlight, for the first time. It's your first legitimate playing time because you've been playing behind one of the greatest of all time at the history of the academy in Malcolm Perry. Guys with two completely different skill sets. And based on the lack of preparation for them and the camp and the way things went, they just didn't have the traditional opportunity for preparation and practice. And that's hard. That offense is hard to master when, even though you get snaps in practice, because the mids are non-traditional when it comes to that. A lot of teams, your starters are the only ones that get the reps, maybe some twos every now and then get sprinkled in. Navy runs multiple huddles. So all of their guys run through the basic parts of the offense. But when you have to do it at game speed against the people that we have on our schedule, that makes it incredibly tough. I think all three of the guys that are challenging for the position right now will be more proficient in the offense overall, and because they've had the preparation time and they've had a much more fair opportunity to run the offense. And I think we'll see more of that this coming season.
All right, last question, and this relates more to kind of that go for it attitude. I remember Bill Wagner in a couple of press conferences asking Coach, go for the field goal there and just get some points. Why try to go for the touchdown? To me, that's a difference between maybe regular conference play and what you see out of academy football. How do you explain that? Is that just part of being in an academy that, Coach Monken said it best, winning matters. So rather than go for just getting a few points and hoping to get back to the red zone later, is there something about academy football that when you get close to the red zone, you're not going for just to get on the board, you're going for the kill?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think for any college football team, I think for 99% of people in life, winning matters. We all want to win. We all want to be successful. The adage at Navy is, if it's 4th and 1, we should always be able to get 1 yard. 4th and 2, should always be able to get 2 yards. And that's why, by nature of, you go back to when Paul Johnson started this thing back in 2002 with the triple option, that's always been, the mantra. If we run the offense right, we should always be able to get 1 or 2 yards on a lot of these short yardage plays. And, you know, that I think that will always be Kenny's mantra. I think anybody that runs the option, I think it will always be there. You know, you don't have to be Kenny or Jeff Monken. I think anybody else that runs this offense or has a powerful running offense, you know, I mean, you have Alabama, you got Najee Harris in the backfield. You don't think Alabama thinks they can get 1 yard or 2 yards against Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson? It doesn't matter. If you do what you do and you execute it well, I think there are many football teams in America that think they can get 1 yard or 2 yards on those types of plays. I mean, ultimately, yes, you know, you're trying to win the game. That's the ultimate goal. And converting short yardage plays is always going to be a part of it. By nature of the offense, when you're averaging 4 yards a carry, you're usually going to be in a lot of 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, 3rd and 2, 4th and 2 type situations. So, you know, from that standpoint, you know, as the great Herm Edwards cut says, you play to win the game. And every coach, I believe, has that mantra. You find me a coach that doesn't want to win, and I'll find you a coach that needs to be fired ASAP.
ASAP, that's funny. Hey, any last thoughts about the 2021 season?
I'm looking forward to it just for our kids, because last year what they went through was not representative of what Navy football is all about. But as I said earlier, you know, last year wasn't representative of what college football was all about for a lot of programs. And I love our kids dearly, and I love college football dearly. And I think these young men, what they sacrificed last year just to have a football product in whatever form it was an extraordinary ask. And I'm hoping this year that it's as close to normal for them as it possibly can be, because they deserve that after what they went through last year.
Yeah, well, in the press conferences, it was great to hear how refreshing and how enthusiastic everybody was, and just to be back in kind of a rhythm, back with contact, back just kind of at what they know is football. So listen, Pete, let me make sure I say your last name, Medhurst.
Yes.
Did I say it right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Great talking to you. I love your passion. I look forward to checking in with you again, just to kind of see what you think about how things are going. But anyway, thank you for your insight.
You got it. No problem. Thanks for asking.